Hi, this is Maya from the Worldwide Good News, and I have Mike Koenig with me. He is a gig surfer, a video producer, and now he created this amazing new movie called Life with Tesla. Hi, Mike. How are you doing?
Hi, Maya. How are you doing?
Good.
I'm great, by the way. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, for those who don't know, what is Tesla?
Well, it is really the first shipping high-performance all-electric car. The Tesla Roadster came out in 2008, and I'm not only an enthusiast, I'm a big fan, and really I've been a big fan of alternative power and alternative energy as well as electric cars for really 20 years. So it's the first car that really delivers on the promise that not only was it commercially available, it's fast, it's fun to drive, and the people behind it are not only giant enthusiasts, they're really transforming the way electric car production is viewed, and they've also created some amazing technology that they've been licensing out to other big auto manufacturers.
Oh, that's so great. I mean, I've heard of them when they started, and it was just after, I think, a movie came out a few years ago that was called Who Killed the Electric Car, and now I think there's a movie called The Revenge of the Electric Car, and it's just so wonderful to see that it's coming back, and you are actually making a movie about your life with this little amazing car, but beyond that, there's other things that you're doing for the environment, but you're doing it in a chic way, not in a, I'm not hippie, not getting off the grid. I'm actually enjoying my life and doing it in style. Mm-hmm. So tell us more about that.
Sure. Well, basically, Life with Tesla began as a little dream of mine, and what happened was this. I did a lot of research, first of all, when I made the decision to get the car. And if you go back a little bit, I was at a point where I had actually put money down on another electric car called an Aptera, which still has not shipped. And it's a three-wheeled car built here in San Diego area, in Carlsbad actually. And due to a number of different problems, some of them were decision-making, some of them were money issues, some of them were engineering issues, they hadn't shipped the car. And I had been on the waiting list for a couple of years. And finally I made a decision. I'm either going to make my own electric car or try to find another vehicle. And I started doing tons and tons and tons of research. And my deep, deep fantasy was that I would not only have an all-electric car that was practical, but secondly, I could be off the grid. In other words, find some form of alternative power. And I even investigated biodiesel and running off of basically restaurant oil. I know a lot of people, and also, the whole idea was a reasonably zero-impact fuel source. Now, one thing that we all have to realize is that the cost to the environment and still manufacturing and delivering an electric car is still huge. It's sort of like when people think, oh, they're doing the environment so much good with a Prius. The reality is the environmental impact of the car, making the batteries and disposing of them and all that other kind of stuff, still has worse overall impact on the environment than a gasoline car. I only say that because usually the naysayers are like, they go off on how much oil is used to manufacture a car. And look, that is all true. Mm-hmm. I think it's a matter of what do we stand for, how are we making progress? And the biggest thing is I wanted to get as close to off the grid as possible and quit buying gasoline and oil. Mm-hmm. So I did tons of research. I investigated building my own and found basically car hackers who make electric cars. And at the end of the day, I realized that if I were going to make my own car, it would have taken about 6 to 8 months and probably cost me somewhere in the neighborhood of $65,000 to $95,000. And I would have to employ at least one engineer and a mechanic during that time because I don't have all the tools, and all the resources myself. And finally, I'd be lucky if I had a car that would go more than 40 miles at 65 miles per hour. And, I was just like, okay, this is not a good option. So that's when I decided to just pick up the phone. I called up Tesla and I said, when are you going to have the next showing of the car? Because I had found out that they actually show the car. At that point, they only had a couple dealerships. And made an arrangement, met with one of their they're really a concierge service. They show up with the vehicle, let you drive it. And at first I was like, I'm not too sure about this, and then I thought about it, and I slept on it, and I said, I got to do this thing. So I get the car, and that was great, but I went through a lot of research to find out, what is it, everything I need to know about this vehicle. And then the big leap, which was, how can I make the transition to using some form of alternative power? And I've always been a big wind enthusiast and a water enthusiast for, whatever I could find. It turns out, of course, in Southern California here, solar makes the most sense. So I went through the process of finding a solar company, talking to installers, learning everything I needed to know about ultimately how do I become essentially net zero, meaning produce more than enough power for my house and my car, and maximize all the tax breaks and all the tax benefits that you have here in the U.S. as well. So all that stuff, I thought about it and thought, okay, what if I documented the process of me going through it? And at first I thought, well, I'll just make a video blog. Made a couple calls, talked to a couple people, and I thought, shoot, let's go for it. I'm going to make a documentary. So I self-funded it. I actually proposed the project to Tesla. They ended up becoming a sponsor and gave me full endorsement, full support, although I paid for all the production out of my own pocket. And my intention right from the beginning was I was not only going to produce this, but with the attitude of giving it away, no strings attached, no questions asked. And the idea is I want to educate people on the benefits of going 100% solar, 100% electric, and living with this in what essentially is a low impact, zero compromise way. And as of now, I believe I've really succeeded because I am actually overproducing. It's right now when we record this. It's July of 2011. I am overproducing electricity, not only for the house, but for the car as well. So technically, the electric company is paying me. And my out-of-pocket costs for the solar panels after rebates is about $18,000. And because I'm self-employed, basically I have my own company, I'm able to deduct the cost of the car. I'm able to deduct the full cost of the solar panels as well. And because I'm building making this documentary, technically it's all a prop as well. Mm-hmm. So when I got all my tax rebates from the federal, from Fed and from state, it's a pretty darn good deal. And I estimate right now that from the time I began until just under 3 years, the entire solar system will pay for itself. And again, the car definitely is expensive. Okay, it's over $100,000, so that's a full disclosure thing. Mm-hmm. I've got a couple of technology companies, so I can afford this car, and I've worked really hard. It is absolutely practical and possible to make the leap. I just literally yesterday drove by the first Chevy Volt I've seen on the road, which is still kind of a hybrid. It's a bastardized car, in my opinion. I think it's nice that the auto manufacturers are making something. The thing is, it still has a gasoline motor in it, and my rule was I was going to be 100% electric with no gas dependency whatsoever. And the only other car that is practical and shipping right now in that category is the Leaf, the Nissan Leaf, which is actually a nice little car. Mm-hmm. It does have limited range. The owners that I've spoken to so far are getting about 70 miles or so per charge. They say 90, but again, from a practical point of view, when you're starting, stopping, you're on the road, and you're commuting and that kind of thing, it's always going to be about 20 to 25% lower than what they estimate the high is, in my experience.
Yeah, and the Tesla is how long for between charges now?
Well, it depends how you drive. Okay, so that's the number one thing. So, and it also depends how you charge. And I talk about this in the documentary. But the bottom line summary is, you can charge the car if you have a high amperage current in your home or office or wherever you're charging up. You could go from 0 to fully charged in about 4 hours. Mm-hmm. Now, one thing to take into account is you pretty much never run the car all the way to empty. So it's usually going to be at about a half charge or maybe a third down when you're charging it up. So you're looking at an hour and a half to top it off. The next thing is there are different charging modes for the car. all of which are designed to maximize the length or the duration of the longevity of the batteries and get you the most either performance or range out of the car. So in standard mode, it charges the batteries to about 85% or so. Peaking them up all the way apparently lowers the duration that the batteries will last, which is estimated at about 7 years with normal use. And you can drive about 190 miles or so on a regular charge. You can drive supposedly up to 250 miles on a extended range charge. I've found that that's pushing it a little bit, but around 200 miles or so. 165 on normal, 200 on extended, and then the other charging mode is what's known as performance, and that's if your goal is to go out and let's say you're going to go on a track for a day and really drive the car hard, take advantage of the fact that it goes 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds, and blow the socks off of virtually every other car that's on the track. But again, in that mode, I would say that if you're on the road driving in performance mode and kind of going crazy, you might get about 90 miles out of the car, and I'll bet on the track it'd be less than that just because, you'd really be working it hard. But, I think the other thing to realize is the Tesla is a high-performance, high-end, exotic sports car in terms of its behavior, how it runs, how it behaves. And, again, if you're going to compare that to some other vehicle out there, you're in the class of a Porsche and a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and that sort of a thing.
Yeah.
So, it is, and the other thing is the other day I took it out for, I went out to eat at a nice restaurant in San Diego, pull up to valet. Not only, the usual reaction is, yeah, we'll keep it up front here for you, sir. So, definitely is a head turner and an attention getter. And, one of the things that I do is I've got some business cards printed up. I hand them out to people who ask me questions about the car all the time so they can check it out for themselves. Again, the whole idea is just spread the word. Yeah,
and that's a good word. And again, for people who are listening to this and they're like, wow, that's an expensive car. I know that Tesla's coming with a much more affordable car, a sedan, in a few years' time. I think next year, and I'm hoping to get in line to that in about a year or two, because that has been my dream, to get off the grid as much as possible. I mean, I live in a big loft building, and we're trying to get solar here. But I mean, that is a whole. What can we do with our time right now to change the paradigm? And you've taken it on yourself to completely change it, and that's commendable. And for other people, what do you suggest? How do they start? Like, how do they even start moving towards? Because for you, it's no compromise, and I love it. That's the way it should be. But not everybody is in the same conversation that they can actually go out and do that.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would do. I think that obviously just paying attention to how you live and what you consume and how you consume. Again, one of my goals is to get away from big oil. I don't trust the companies. I don't trust the sources of the oil. Obviously, there's a certain percentage comes from the Middle East, which are not pro-democracy. Now, again, the process of manufacturing these cars and the panels and stuff do require petroleum resources. That is a reality. But I found that the companies that are manufacturing a lot of these things are usually they have their minds on the same things we do in terms of where those resources come from. So that's a longer conversation than we have, I realize it. But the bottom line, to answer your question, is one of the things you could do is move over and, let's say, get one of a Leaf, which is very affordable. I mean, your net out-of-pocket is in the 20,000 something range by the time you get your tax credits and that kind of thing, at least in the U.S. here. Now, the next thing that you have to realize is that the vast majority of electricity is produced by burning coal. All right, so it has a environmental impact as well. Now, it is cheaper than oil. A lot of it comes from here in the U.S., for example, or whatever your native country might happen to be. But that is something else to think about. Again, I believe that supporting an electric car and beginning the transition is a good first step, because once we hit the proper level of momentum, and more people switch over, and it's actually it makes financial sense for the auto manufacturers to raise their hand and say, yes, I'm going to invest heavily in this. I'm going to make more cars. I'm going to support this. Everyone wins from that. And in terms of the power, now again, you look at it at this time, depending on where you live, it doesn't take long for a solar installation to pay for itself or become cost effective. So in my case, within 3 years, I will be completely powering my home and powering my car, or cars in that case, because I'll get the Model S as well when that comes out for the second vehicle that we have, 100% from the sun. So I get my ROI in 3 years. And, so again, I think, what can you do right now? Make a small transition if you can afford it. Get one of the newer, lower-priced vehicles that are getting out there, but support the people, the manufacturers that are producing this technology. I think that's a great way to build the momentum and let the world know that there is, in fact, demand for this. We desire it. And I would argue that most people would probably raise their hands and say, yeah, if I had an opportunity to get off the grid, I'd do it. If I had an opportunity to stop purchasing and buying oil, I'd do it. It's just a matter of selecting that path.
Yes, exactly. Now, thank you for that very much. And what are your plans after Life with Tesla? You said you're going to get the Model S. Are you going to go on the road and promote this, or how are you going to get more change to come to us?
Yeah, well, here's the thing: is I actually have my license plate on the car is personalized, so that goes to my website. On the back of it, I have a sticker on the back window that says 100% electric and charged by the sun. And I always give out cards. Right now, the website, lifewithtesla.com, the Facebook page, etc., we've got a pretty substantial database already. And I'm submitting the movie to film festivals. We are submitting it for an Emmy. We'll try to get a Effie and just try to get into as many awards, contests, and film festivals as possible. That'll raise awareness. I'm also, even though I'm giving the movie away, I'm finding and seeking every form of distribution, every channel of distribution possible, including I will sell the movie in iTunes and on Netflix and all the other and Amazon, for example, and every other alternative location I can find, because if it's in the paid area, it'll show up in the commercial side of things. It's sort of like I'll have it in the free areas too, but again, if someone stumbles or browses upon it, that's fine. In terms of going on the road, I'll say to some degree I'll do that, but honestly, I've got 2 companies to run. I'm a busy guy. I've got a son and a wife, and they appreciate having me here. So what you don't see in the background here is I have a full high-definition studio that looks like a cross between an ESPN and a CNN set. It's a $200,000 studio. So this week, for example, I'm actually doing a documentary on how to create documentaries. And so and I'll be revealing how much I spent making the documentary, how I went about finding the talent, managing them, coming up with the creative ideas, directing the project, and all that. And I'll reveal everything that I possibly can. And so the objective here is just spread the word. Once I get the Model S, I'll probably update the documentary somewhat. And, deep inside, I'm a frustrated filmmaker. I just happen to be a business owner as well. So, to me, documentaries are a big part of how I do business and how I'll continue to do business in the future. And, whatever I can do to support organizations that are involved in alternative power as well. And I'll always put my money where my mouth is. So, even my bag that I carry my laptop in is solar powered. So I've got a solar charger in there. Yeah, yeah. So, anything I can do at this point, I'm fortunate because I have a couple of businesses I can support this habit of mine. And again, at least in the U.S., when you invest money to create a film or a documentary or something like that, that money is deductible from your taxes. So, in effect, I'm able to produce this. And yes, it costs me out of pocket, but at the end of the day, it doesn't cost me out of pocket net. And there's other ways that I'll profit from, creating awareness and getting attention from this product as well. So it's easy for me to play this game and support it and create awareness and help other people. And hopefully it'll ultimately help drive the prices of the cars down, and the alternative power as well, and just make it easier for people to raise their hands and say, okay, someone has figured out all the hard stuff here, how to select a solar company, how long it takes, how much it costs, what the savings are, what I should do, how, all that stuff that's normally going to be very overwhelming and potentially difficult.
Yeah.
Most people don't even think about it. So I did all the thinking. I've gone through the process. I've invested months of my own time and my own money and energy to make it easy for someone to just say, okay, I can just do what Mike did, and here's what I can expect.
Oh, that's great. Thank you so much for doing that. I mean, that is what is needed to have, for people to have good role models. And as I said before, you're not doing it in a way that, is not fun. You're doing it in a fun way. You've got a fun car, and the house looks great, and, it shows that you don't need to get off the grid and live like a nomad to actually change the world. And I really, really commend you for doing this. This is really, really great.
Thank you.
Yeah. And is there any other things up your sleeve, or?
Well, I think I have a philosophy, a world philosophy. I'll share that briefly, and I think freedom and independence are. Look, I'm not like this, flag-waving, patriotic American guy. However, I'm very, very proud that I live in a country that gives me the resources and freedom to do what I'm doing right now, and also have a voice. And so everything I do, my vision and goal for the world is to create 1 million entrepreneurs, ideally 1 million millionaires before I pass. And my company's mission and vision statements incorporates that. So, inside of this, the alternative energy world is driven by and supported by entrepreneurs, largely. Yes, there's big business that's getting involved right now, but it's largely been done by individuals. So your solar installer, is going to be an entrepreneur that's out there who's taken the risk to do this kind of a thing and make a difference as well, and usually driven by passion and vision and purpose as well. That's something that you find, especially with Tesla owners, for example, and for other electric car owners. So the way I look at this is by making that move yourself, you're supporting entrepreneurs, you're supporting small business and commerce, and it will ultimately have a long-term impact on your children on the planet as well. And the sooner we remove ourselves from being dependent upon oil and the resources and sources that not only it takes from, but also the places it comes from, and even the business philosophies behind it. Again, I am pro-business 100%. I'm not necessarily giant pro-corporation, because big oil gets gigantic tax breaks that are frankly just unacceptable. They're getting billions of dollars in investment and rebates and tax breaks from the federal government, and they're unbelievably profitable, and every investor in the stock benefits from that. It's just unfair. It's not practical. It doesn't support small business, in my opinion. So, when you look at the deficit and you look at the direction and movement of the country, I think the movement towards free electricity and making this switch ultimately is in the best interest of the world and small business and entrepreneurs. And the fastest way to fix a country, to fix I believe the world, is to support small businesses and entrepreneurs. And I think, again, just from a symbolic point of view, that's really what I stand for.
Hear, hear. No, definitely. That is definitely where I stand, and being of an entrepreneurial spirit myself, I completely back you with everything you said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike, very much for your time today.
It's my pleasure, for sure.
Great. And this was Maya from the Worldwide Good News.